warm welcome to this webinar, Doing Business in Mozambique. My name is Arne Doornebal of the Netherlands African Business Council. I would like to start with an overview of the activities the Netherlands African Business Council has been carrying out in Mozambique. For that, I invite NABC's country expert for Mozambique, Mr. Ivo Vondeling.
So my name is Ivo Vondeling. I'm the country representative at NABC for Mozambique, which means I'm the first point of contact for everyone who would like to use NABC's network in Mozambique, but also anyone who would like to organize or take part in activities such as trade missions or events regarding doing business in the country. Well, as Arne just mentioned, NABC is already involved for several years in involving the Dutch private sector to the private sector in Mozambique. Most recently in 2017, NABC helped organizing a business forum when President Nyusi visited the country. Nearly 150 participants were present and more than 25 senior government representatives and representatives of the private sector were there. They mostly aimed at the energy, maritime, logistics, construction, and agribusiness sectors. Then in 2016, NABC organized together with Wageningen University and Research a trade mission to both Mozambique and South Africa. It was then mostly aimed at the maritime and offshore sector, which mostly was aimed at port development and the infrastructure for the gas. Also, agribusiness was involved, but it was more on a bit of general level. Then in 2015, NABC organized also at Wageningen University and local partner Zambezi a trade mission to Mozambique, just focused on agribusiness, and then the most promising subsectors that were potatoes, horticulture, aquaculture, dairy, and poultry. Well, we expect a lot more activities in the coming years. We saw a lot of enthusiasm for this webinar, so we think there's a lot of things we can work with. And also now, Mozambique is one of the 15 focus countries in the Africa strategy. We expect business to increase, and we would like to get involved with that more. So we look forward to hearing your feedback and possibilities. And for now, wish you a fruitful webinar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ivo Vondeling of NABC, country representative. As I said before, we're doing this together with the CTA. We also worked closely with them 3 years ago when His Excellency Philip Nyusi was here, was also involved in organizing that presidential visit and the business forum, which was an absolute highlight of NABC in the last couple of years. And we're joined by actually the president of the board of the CTA. Please welcome Mr. Agostinho Vuma.
Very good morning to everyone. I would like to welcome all of participants on this webinar aiming to discuss business and partnership opportunities between Mozambique and the Netherlands. As CTA, an entity that brings together and leads the activities of the Mozambican private sector, this type of partnership aims to leverage and boost the opportunities available in Mozambique. Although the troubling times affecting the economy all over the world, there are opportunities based in traditional sectors and new arising from the current context. As the business, we must bring solution to our countries, and this times requires that. So as we speak, the Mozambique state of emergency has been renewed for 4 months now. But what matters is the process is that there is a limited reopening of the borders to allow specialists, managers and investors to come and invest, to come and seek for business in our country, especially on tourism. That means the government shall authorize flights with selected countries on the reciprocal regime. This also means a lot to our bilateral intentions to do business. On the trade relations with the Kingdom of the Netherlands. The Netherlands is one of the Mozambique's main trading partners, with trade the two countries averaging around $1 billion and foreign direct investment at $430 million in the last 5 years. It is our perception that looking at the countless business and investment opportunities existing in the country, there is still room to increase the intervention of the Netherlands in agribusiness, tourism, industry, and mineral resources, as well as exploring other areas such as clean energy, fishing, including aquaculture and the fish processing industry. CTA counts with an investment portfolio estimated with about $4 billion. Those opportunities are distributed mostly in agribusiness, tourism, infrastructures, and energy. We are open to discuss those business opportunities. One of the great areas in our country we deal with doing business, and our reference is the World Bank Doing Business magazine. So in doing business, with regard to doing business, while recognizing the persistence of challenge, it is important to highlight the steps taken by the country, by the government especially, with a view to making business more friendly and attracting more investment, as shown by the reforms that have been approved over these 3 years. Furthermore, as the reform processing dynamic, we have worked together with government to accelerate the pace of the reform process, as well as its effective implementation. It is our belief that the support of the Kingdom of the Netherlands can be crucial in process, particularly in the implementation of measures that lack the support of partners for their materialization. Currently, our central bank projects low and a stable inflation over the medium term. International reserves, according to the central bank, cover 6 months of imports of goods and service. We are looking forward to seeing business trips reestablished between Mozambique and the Netherlands in the context of the announcement by His Excellency President News of the gradual opening of reciprocal airspace. This will contribute in strengthening business partnerships and mutual sharing of opportunities.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Vuma. Indeed, we are very glad we're also joined by Her Excellency, Ambassador Berta Cossa, the Ambassador of the Embassy of the Republic of Mozambique in Brussels, and therefore also responsible for the Netherlands. Ambassador Cossa, good morning. Could you please give us a little bit more insights about the warm trade relations between Mozambique and the Netherlands and possible future cooperations?
The government has been faced with the big challenge of putting in place measures to cope with COVID-19 pandemic and save lives, and at the same time keeping the economy sustainable. Our economy would be in a very serious risk if the country had decided to go on lockdown. Not everything is so gloomy. Now I will talk about perspectives. The government is working on developing a post-COVID-19 strategy and is strongly committed to mitigating the impact of coronavirus on the private sector and create conditions for the country to return to normal after the COVID-19. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, the government has been working tirelessly to constantly improve the business environment by removing bureaucratic obstacles and by providing incentives for foreign investment. To conclude, I will leave this appeal to all. Let's join forces to fight COVID-19 and reduce its negative socioeconomic impact so we can all benefit from the vast opportunities that exist in Mozambique and in Africa. Thank you for your kind attention.
After having been joined by the Mozambican authorities, we are also joined by somebody from the Dutch embassy in Mozambique, although currently in the Netherlands, I believe, but let's hear from Mr. Jurian Muller, who is the head of trade and investment at the Dutch embassy in Mozambique.
What Mr. Vuma already said, we are a big trading partner from the Netherlands for Mozambique. Last year, we were the #3 importer for Mozambique and the #4 exporter to Mozambique. So we are a small country, but in terms of export and import, it's quite a big size. And Mozambique is expected to show an acceleration in economic growth. Of course, COVID-19 stops it a little bit, but I'm more than sure that Mozambique will recover quickly, especially with all the big gas projects in the north. Well, they already started, and especially when the gas starts flowing, I think the percentage of growth will increase significantly. And I think Mozambique is really one of the promising countries for Dutch companies to invest in. The colleagues from NABC already mentioned, I think that's also a reason, of course, Mozambique is one of the 15 priority countries in the Africa strategy of the Dutch private sector. Despite it's quite a challenging situation at the moment, there's reason for optimism and plenty of business opportunities. For the Netherlands, the main opportunities lie in the sectors of water, of agriculture, of infrastructure and corridors, and energy. And for us, an important cross-cutting theme in all of this is entrepreneurship. With well, an example is the Orange Corners, an incubator within the embassy in Maputo, training around 50 Mozambican entrepreneurs every year. Well, water, Mozambique has vast water resources, though these are unevenly distributed. Climate change is heavily impacting Mozambique. Well, it has an impact. Water is either too much, too little, or of insufficient quality. And with the standing of the Netherlands internationally recognized for its expertise in water management, I think the Netherlands is well positioned to play a role. We already support programs in water supply, in coastal protection, and we also helped up to set PLAMA, which is a dialogue platform in the water sector to link private and public entities. Opportunities in the sector lie in integral water resource management, irrigation, and increasing demand in clean water infrastructure. And with its long coastline, I think many business opportunities also lie in coastal development and coastal protection. The second priority sector for the Netherlands is what I mentioned, agriculture. Of course, agriculture remains the backbone of the Mozambican economy. I think around 70 to 80% of Mozambicans are employed in the agricultural sector, and the availability of land is huge. Only 50% of over 30 million hectares is used at the moment, offering great potential for further agricultural development, including regional and global trade of agricultural products. So there's also a big export potential here. But big steps need to be taken to increase the profits and to commercialize the agricultural and fishery sector. And so with a more commercial approach, Mozambique would be better placed to meet its own demands, but also boosting its capacity to export. There are already a number of Dutch businesses active in Mozambique, in poultry, in eggs, in animal feed, vegetables, and cassava, for example. And some Dutch programs from more the aid side include support to smallholder farmers, and we also give assistance to the Zambezi Valley Development Agency, which helps local and international companies in the central region of Mozambique. The third one is infrastructure and logistics. Due to its strategic location of Mozambique, being a natural exit and entry point for its landlocked neighbors like Zimbabwe, Malawi, and of course it has a good link to the Asian markets as well. These corridors have the potential to become more competitive and hereby provide opportunities for Dutch smart logistic solutions to make these corridors more efficient and more effective. At the moment, we support programs or studies around port development and also on strengthening the Berta corridor to further develop that to support the Mozambique government in these things. A fourth and last priority sector from our side is energy. It was already mentioned before by the other speakers. Of course, what I said, the big gas projects in the north are really taking off. Well, for the Dutch perspective, these gas fields are like 3 times of the gas fields in Groningen, which we use already since the early 50s. So, and we are still using it. So that's a huge amount. And these projects come with huge investments for the gas exploitations, and it offers like both direct and indirect opportunities for Dutch products and services to help further exploit these gas fields. But of course, what I said was responsible business conduct. We also really look at the green side of energy, because Mozambique has high sun intensity and it has many waterways. Therefore, Mozambique offers a great potential in renewable energy. Well, with sun of course, in solar energy, and with water in hydropower. Of course, the Cahora Bassa Dam already provides quite a big amount of the energy use in Mozambique, but I think the potential is much bigger. And especially with the access to energy only around 30% at the moment, I think renewable energy can play a big part in increasing this percentage, which is also the goal of the Mozambique government itself, to reach 100% in 2030. Of course, a last point about doing business, I think, well, Mr. Vuma already said it, and the ambassador as well. It's not that easy to do business in Mozambique, and therefore the Dutch embassy in Mozambique and the whole network, the Dutch economic network, including the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, the ministries, and of course ourselves as the embassy, we are more than happy to support you in doing business in Mozambique. It's a challenge, but it's really worthwhile doing it. We have 4 main areas of support. It's network and contacts. So through our international network, we can help you in finding new contacts, partners, buyers, and suppliers. It's about knowledge and information. So we keep you up to date on opportunities, on the markets, on developments in local business legislations and the changes in those legislation. A third one is financing. We can support you in finding financing opportunities to expand abroad, doing business in Mozambique, either via the instruments we have available via the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, or also via international financing channels. And the fourth one is, of course, promoting Dutch interest. So we can assist you with business issues and local procedures by engaging in a dialogue with the right local partners, including government, removing obstacles in doing business. So though the conditions are quite challenging, I think doing business in Mozambique can be really rewarding for a Dutch company to do so. There's also a reason why we already have quite a number of businesses being present in Mozambique. And there are still ample opportunities and for economic growth, which is also expected for the coming years. And we gladly provide support on your journey of what Mozambique has to offer to you. I think you easily fall in love with this beautiful country. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jurian Muller, Head of Trade and Investment of the Embassy of the Netherlands in Mozambique. We'll now hear from Mr. Rui Monteiro. He is the managing partner of Turconsult and also attached to the CTA. He will also give us a little bit more even in-depth information about current business opportunities in Mozambique. You're welcome, Mr. Monteiro.
Obviously, my focus is in terms of doing business. I'm connected to various types of business, but my focus is on tourism. I represent the biggest hotel chain, and I've started that hotel chain here in Mozambique, as well as some other projects as well. In terms of doing business, I will go first to a generic presentation of Mozambique in terms of tourism, and then focus a bit on the COVID and what we're doing about it as well in terms of bringing tourism back to life. Mozambique, as everybody has spoken, has a very, very long coastline. And whilst other countries in Africa have a very long coastline, our beaches are very good because they're also protected by Madagascar. So we have these long expanses of very, very nice beaches, which form one of the potentials of development in tourism in Mozambique. Whilst the most important point of entry is in the south of the country, in Maputo, the north already has infrastructures, although not fully operational yet, but the north has infrastructures in order to be able to compete with a lot of destinations, especially from Europe, where the maximum length of travel is considered 8 hours. So, you know, we can already start competing with a lot of destinations that are excuse me, that are going for the European market. Obviously, now, you know, one of our biggest advantages is that we, in conservation, represents 24% of our land in Mozambique. Excuse me. Of which 18% is actually run by private sector, be that in pure conservation, in game farms, and also in hunting areas. We have one of our biggest advantages as well is having this conservation together with the beach, so providing a beach and bush destination, which makes the difference. That's where we make the big difference worldwide. Is in providing this combination of beach and bush, and the proximity of Kruger Park, which borders Mozambique from South Africa, is also very important geographically in order to be able to sell Mozambique as a potential destination. Obviously, we also have in some areas cultural tourism. We've got one island, which is Mozambique Island, which is a UNESCO declared area, and it's being developed in by small investors, not very big. It cannot take big groups, but there's quite a lot of small tourism development there. And obviously now, with the discovery of the gas, the business tourism is obviously very important. So we have quite a lot of international chains looking at Mozambique. At the moment, we only have, in terms of big international chains, we have Residor, which is Radisson, but I know that Kempinski and Hilton, Marriott, all of these chains have been looking at Mozambique for quite a while. So, you know, they're now starting to put a foot in the country in order to be able to receive all this oil and gas business, especially in Maputo and in Pemba, which is up in the north of the country. Another opportunity for investment also in the area of tourism is also training. We have hotel schools. We have one hotel school in the center of the country, in Yamban, which is center south, but it requires a foreign partner, and I know that the Netherlands are very strong in training hotel-wise, and it requires a partner that would be more realistic in terms of the curricula, and in order to be able to provide employment to the people. Obviously, I don't know if APIEX is going to speak, but I'll just speak a little bit in terms of tourism. Obviously, the correct door to come into the country is via APIEX. And especially in terms of tourism, it is quite a painless process if you come via APIEX and if you do things correctly. I believe my prior speaker spoke about corruption, etc. And via APIEX, you waive a lot of those problems. So it is always good to follow the legal route coming into the country. For your information, equipment is exempt of duties for tourism. There are quite a few fiscal incentives. I'm sure APIEX will tell you, and they have a site as well where they named the type of incentives, fiscal incentives that one is exempt, and depending on the area of investment, the timing is longer or shorter. So where there's development required, there's a longer period of incentives to help. I think very generally, this is what I have to say. In terms of COVID, we are now meeting with the health authorities and I must say that I am extremely impressed, even as a businessman and as an investor, especially as a Mozambican and looking elsewhere. I am extremely impressed by our health authorities and the way that they have behaved towards COVID, towards this issue, and the way that they have tracked down the people, etc. And I think I would say we are a success case. We have been tirelessly in following up every single case that has come into the country, and not only to make sure that it is not spread any further. I'm extremely impressed with our health authorities. Having said that, we are now working with the health authorities and the Ministry of Culture and Tourism in order to be able to have a clean and safe stamp from their side, in order to be able to reopen hotels and give the assurance that they are able to they comply with the requirements not only of nationals but also of international tourists. I would suppose initially being business tourism, but eventually going back to leisure tourism again towards the end of the year. So I think that's.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Monteiro. I was alerted by the fact that Mr. Vuma will have to leave this meeting at exactly 12 o'clock Dutch time. That's 10 minutes from now. But any other questions towards the CTA can then be addressed to Mr. Monteiro, who will still be with us for a little while. We still have a number of speakers today here with us. Denise, Amade, I can see you. If you could kindly unmute yourself. Please tell us a little bit more about opportunities there in Mozambique.
It's a great honor to actually participate in this forum, and as you mentioned before, Mrs. Sambo has had other urgent work commitments, so I'll be replacing him this morning. So in terms of business opportunities that we can share with you, we actually remain very optimistic in regards to the future. Obviously, there have been some negative health and economic impacts in Mozambique due to this COVID-19 influence. But we've noticed that FDI inflows have actually not dropped drastically as could be expected compared to the same period last year. So about 50% of this FDI is actually due to reinvestments, and it means that it could mean that investors are still very confident in the country and the opportunities that it offers. So we are actually actively pursuing to promote partnerships between foreign companies and local companies in Mozambique. So in terms of the sectors that we will focus on, we've seen a great growth in potential and good investment opportunities in sectors that provide essential services to guarantee production, conservation, and supply of products necessary to the country, as could be expected. We've particularly looked an increase in seen an increase in investments in the industries essential to health services such as chemical, pharmaceutical services, cleaning products, and so on. And we also encourage investments in the food industry at the moment, particularly agriculture and agro-industry, and financial service, fintech, as well as logistics, as has been mentioned before. But we also strongly encourage investments in the sectors that are considered priority by the government of Mozambique. And this, there is some overlap as well with the ones that I mentioned before, and that include agriculture and agro-industry. But we've also spoken today about tourism, the oil and gas, investments into infrastructure, energy, and the manufacturing services. So we, as APIEX, which is the Investment and Export Promotion Agency in Mozambique, we continue to provide services to investors in terms of attracting and promoting the facilitation of investment projects, implementation of investment projects throughout the country, and export from Mozambique abroad. So even though we've had some physical limitations, we've shifted our gears more into online technologies and use of online channels to continue providing the services and assistance to investors. So in closing, I would strongly encourage Dutch companies to come and invest in Mozambique and approach APIEX in case if you need any assistance, if you need any aftercare services, and in terms of implementation of FPI in the country.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Denise, Amade. Thank you also for your quick reaction this morning in terms of replacing Mr. Sambo. I understand Mr. Jan de Vries is now back, the CEO of Cornelder.
Indeed, Cornelder Mozambique specifically. We are the company that runs the container terminal and general cargo terminal in the port of Beira, Mozambique, and we have done so for the last 21 years, nearly 22 years. So we have a very long experience here in Mozambique. Mozambique and the world looked quite a bit different 21 years ago. So we've seen a very big evolution, both in terms of our own operation, but as well as the whole country. We've come far. Our volumes in the last 20 years have increased by more than 500%. We went from an operation that was largely manual, without any computers. We went to an operation that is now fully computer controlled with lots of equipment, lots of sophisticated new technologies, on par with other ports in the world. And we've come far as an organization. We're proudly proud to say that I am one of the very few expatriates that work in the company. Actually, Cornelder Mozambique has for the most part of its existence CEOs. But at the moment we work with a
Oh, I think your sound is suddenly disappearing.
yeah, my internet.
Now you're back. You're back, please.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So we have been in the business for quite a long time. Seen things evolve. As Beira, port of Beira, we mainly serve the Zimbabwean, Zambian, Malawian, and now also parts of Eastern DRC markets. So we're mainly a transit transit port. And have seen in Beira the appearance of a very big logistics sector around us, where 22 years ago everything happened in the port itself. All the containers were stuffed, stripped. There was very little activities outside. We are now in the heart of a very big logistical hub, with lots of Mozambican and international companies having set up dry ports and distribution centers right around the port, linking the hinterland to the rest of the world. So that is a very good evolution to see. Yeah, okay, it's a bit different, of course, for a company freshly coming in, but the experience of 22 years ago, I wasn't around back then, it is of course different than it would be now, but we see Mozambique as sometimes, of course, challenging, but generally a very good business environment. We all have good relationships with the private sector and with the public sectors and with the authorities. And together we've come far. As a port, you cannot do much on your own. You always need to work with other people, other stakeholders. So it is positive. The issue of Corona, or COVID-19, which is of course the order of the day. I share the opinion of the earlier speakers that and must congratulate the Mozambican government and health authorities for so far doing a very good balancing in between, let's say, controlling the pandemic and not stopping the economy completely. The port operations have been able, with more restrictions, to continue. We've invested a lot in making social distancing possible, improving hygiene in the port, doing health checks and all these kind of things to make the operations as safe as possible. Government has been instrumental in facilitating still cross-border trade as much as possible without losing sight of the health aspects. So we must congratulate and we keep our fingers crossed. We hope we see a recent increase in cases, but it still seems to be more or less under control.
Mr. De Vries, can I ask you something? We've seen all across Africa that airports have been shut, borders have been shut, but that sea freight has continued to a large extent. What are your figures over, say, March, April, May, and June, for in case you already have them, telling you about, percentage? Is there a big drop or?
We see with our traditional customers, we see a drop, quite a significant. The whole hinterland, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, have all had restrictive measures that, of course, have had a negative impact on their economic activity. But at the same time, we've gained a lot of new customers that used to use ports like Durban, Dar es Salaam, where there are major issues at the moment, logistics-wise. So we've seen quite a few new customers coming in that have restricted the decrease in cargo quite a bit. So overall, we're not that far ahead of where we were last year, and we're optimistic that we can continue, that we can maintain these customers for the coming years once we show how things run in Mozambique, in Beira in particular, on the corridor. We believe that we can maintain them. So there has been a drop, but volumes, the business is okay. The main difficulties that we face is actually related to closure of airports. The inability of bringing in specialists, bringing in customers. We ourselves, we have a very big IT department, a strong maintenance department. So we're quite self-sufficient, but we do know quite a few companies that struggle that normally rely on foreign experts. But for us, so far, it's going well. It has been a good exercise for us to look twice as, do we really need to bring somebody from overseas? Can we not do it via video conferencing, or are there local solutions available? And I must say, so far, so good. Of course, you need to anticipate things, so we work with higher stock levels of spare parts so that we don't come up short, because DHL and air freight is all very restricted at the moment. So you need to anticipate. But if you plan well, if you look ahead, you can do it. But major new investments that involve foreign companies, foreign technology, is a little bit complicated at the moment because we cannot receive consultants.
I can imagine.
But we believe that's a matter of time before we can refocus on that. But day-to-day operations is going well, all things considering, and we hope to soon be able to look ahead and positively look to the future and return to our expansion projects and implementation of new technologies and.
Exactly. Okay, Mr. Vink, lastly, before we go to our final speakers, and I also do want to keep some room for our questions, perhaps from the audience. I do see the chat is being used very well, so you can actually also interact with each other and send messages, which is good, obviously, now that we're not physically together and give each other business cards. But of course, having heard all the advantages about doing business in Mozambique, I can imagine there must also be challenges. What to you is the most challenging? What would you advise to your Dutch colleagues who've never, just coming in new and say, okay, I want to go and do business in Mozambique? But what would you tell them? What do they have to be aware of?
Well, I would say as the challenges are as in any organization, any new country, you come from a different culture. Netherlands has a different culture than Mozambique, different customs. So get good advisors. Get local people involved that can advise you on how business should be done, so that you overcome cultural differences. Be patient. Sometimes processes take longer than expected. We still have, of course, quite a bit of bureaucracy to deal with. We've seen a big improvement thanks to institutions such as APIEX, CTA, and the government to improve. For example, in the Beira corridor, the most clear is fully electronic customs systems, where in the past it took days or longer to clear a container. Nowadays, it's mostly done online, but that's not across all institutions. So be a little bit patient. Sometimes things take longer than you would anticipate in the Netherlands. But if you're patient and you use common sense and consider cultural differences between countries, you will overcome them, and you can have success. So but it's of course a bit different. We're an organization that's already for 22 years or 21 years in Mozambique. So we know our way around.
Absolutely.
It's a little bit different. Maybe our experience is not the most relevant in this aspect, but I think.
Well, I do believe it's relevant. Otherwise, we would not have invited you. But it's extremely good to hear your view of more than 20 years experience in Mozambique. Thank you very much, Mr. De Vries, CEO of Cornelder. It was already mentioned before that agriculture is a significant part of the economic activity in Mozambique. Therefore, we are now joined by Mr. Wigle Vondeling. He's a Dutch consultant active in the agribusiness industry, very familiar with Mozambique. Welcome, Mr. Vondeling.
Okay, thanks everyone for having me. Thanks NABC, CTA, APIEX, and IBO Investimentos. Maybe it's good to get a little bit of background of my history with Mozambique, and then moving to what I'm doing now. I started to work in Mozambique in 2009 for Rabobank, who assigned me to be the head of agriculture for Banco Terra. Many of the participants might know the bank, which is now merged into Mozabanco, Moza. As head of agriculture, the shareholders of Banco Terra wanted to grow an agri portfolio in Mozambique, and the team I was working in, has executed that. Let's say in the beginning, Mozambique is a beautiful country with fantastic possibilities. So I used my position as head of agriculture to explore the whole country. I drove to every corner of the country. I looked at every crop, all the possibilities, and we financed, let's say, quite opportunistic. Can I say that?
Mm-hmm. You can say everything.
It also means that we made some interesting mistakes every now and then, but you have to go through these learning curves to at the end to arrive where you want to arrive. I've done that. We've built up a portfolio of around $25–30 million and when I left in 2016. After that, I was shifted to Zambia, also for Rabobank, to be assigned as an advisor to one of the Rabobank participants in Zambia, one of the Rabobank participations in Zambia. Recently, I left Rabobank and I started my own business, and I'm focusing on investors, whether they are institutional or family offices or private individuals who are interested in investing in agribusiness in sub-Saharan Africa mainly. Because, most of my time in Africa I've spent in Mozambique, and I wanted to find a good reason to come back to Mozambique and all these other beautiful countries again. So that's why I have my own company, and I'm guiding investors around. Basically, and I just started in February, and my first trip was planned in April to Mozambique. But we all know that COVID-19 has readjusted our schedules. So my expertise is to guide people around in the country to bring them to the right places to farm, and to connect them to the right people and the right institutions to start operating. After having done a thorough agriculture analysis. Why doing business in Mozambique, from an agriculture perspective? What my experience in Mozambique is that the non-perishables, like, let's say, nuts, other grain crops are relatively well to grow in Mozambique, but you have to find your markets, and that's for every produce you have. Compare Mozambique, its geographic location, Southeast Africa, and then look at your markets. Then it's more logic that you ship your goods to, for example, the Middle East, than to Europe, in many occasions. Because I've also done a bit of work now in West Africa, and shipping distance from West Africa with a comparable climate is much shorter than from Mozambique. So you always have to find your market first before you invest in a crop or in a product or in a location. So that's very important. And the second thing is money from investors will always flow like water to the lowest point, actually to the point where it can make a decent return. And therefore the country, whether it's Mozambique or another country, but in this case Mozambique, has to lower all kind of barriers to make the money flow into the country. And I've seen some improvements in that over the last couple of years, but it's still in some cases a challenging business environment. I think that's also confirmed by the doing business list from the World Bank. But sugarcane, bananas, other tropical fruits, they all grow very well in Mozambique, but again, you have to find your markets. You know, sometimes the logistical costs absorb, all your profits. You know so you have to do a right and in-depth risk analysis, risk and opportunity analysis before you decide what to do in agribusiness in Mozambique.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vondeling. And thanks all again. Have a great afternoon.